Good morning, church. This morning, as we start in, I'd like us to talk about an element that God provides for us. One of the songs we sing, in fact, it'll be the last song that we participate in after the lesson, will be Count Your Many Blessings. And some of the lyrics there go, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. What happens a lot of times, we get so focused on the negative and the urgent and the critical that the time and the attitude for joy somehow just gets blown away. So I'd like us to talk about counting your many blessings. I like this picture. There's a little graphic, girls working out on her fingers, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so forth. But think about this. We do a lot of counting. We count how much money we have, right? And here was the guy in Luke chapter 12 and verse 18. I'll pull down my barns and build greater, so I have wherewith to store all my goods, and I have much goods laid up for many years. Yeah, you didn't need it because that night he died. But we think about what's the 401k and what's inflation, rent or mortgage or job, and all the stuff of life. Well, that's part of what goes on. And it is sometimes stressful for individuals. How much life we have left. Psalm 90 and verse 12, the psalmist said, teach us to number our days. 1, what I got today. What's really going to happen? I can tell you what the actuarial tables say. Okay, Paul, you're apt to live 7 more years. Nobody knows anything about that. Turn the corner and you get run over by a cement mixer. The reality is, it's just life, right? Nobody really knows. It's just what the average is may not apply to me at all. I could live longer, live shorter. How many times have we failed? Sometimes that overwhelms people. And Psalm chapter 40 and verse 12, David said, my transgressions are more than the hairs of my head. It is estimated the average person has 100,000 hair follicles. If we focus on where we fail, we tend to fail. If we focus on where we want to succeed, we tend to succeed. Count your many blessings. How many times has someone failed us? Yeah, well, that person let me count it up, and I got a notebook, and I'm going to get the name and the date. And 1 Corinthians 13, verse 5 says, love takes no account of a wrong suffered. Yeah, but Paul, you don't know what they did. No, I don't. But let me ask all of us, how many times have we failed God? Probably 4 times. 14, 400, 4,000, 40,000, 400,000. What he just asked is, come back to me, my child. I want you on the right track. That helps us be more forgiving of others when we think about how forgiving God had to be toward us. Let's count our many blessings. Yeah, but Paul, you don't know how much bad stuff I've seen. That's right, I don't know how much bad stuff you've seen. I'm impressed, though, in Genesis 47 and verse 9. Here's Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, one of the patriarchs. He comments on his life. He said, the years of my sojourning, I have lived to be 130. Nobody in my family line that I have record of lives to be 130. I look out here, and there's nobody here that's 130. Jacob was 130. But look what he says in reflecting on his life. He says, few and unpleasant have been the years of my life. I lived a long time. Boy, they are miserable. Wow, man, wouldn't you like that? Or is our attitude, God, what can we be? What ought we to be? How do you see our future? Because I just grew up in a worldly family as a worldly kid. Not only, it's not, woe is me. I didn't have any role models. Nobody had any role models. Until you become, in my family, a Christian. And somebody said, Paul, there is a better way. And so as we think about ourselves, do we show that attitude of gratitude every day? Yeah, no. So a lot of days, but it gets covered up and overwhelmed. And that's why I just cropped this picture of a locomotive. I mean, it's coming down on you. And boy, I've got to do something else because look at what's about to happen. And so life feels like that sometimes. Just we're being overwhelmed, and how do you handle that? Well, I start by thinking about my attitude of gratitude impacts my happiness. If I'm always looking for, do you know what? This pen isn't exactly how it ought to be. I mean, it just got, if you're fussing about it or say, you know what? It does just exactly what that pen ought to do. I'm happy with the pen. That is having that positive disposition impacts a lot of life that we would otherwise get irritated with. Like a lot of you, or maybe many of you, and this time I was standing in line in Costco a couple of days ago, of course, a gazillion people, and I don't like standing in line. But if I got to stand in line, I might as well do something productive. And so I'm making jokes with people as they're passing by. I said, they look at the line. I said, don't worry about it. There's only 200 people. I'm having fun while I'm there rather than fussing about. I'm in at a pharmacy line, and there's one person ahead of this guy, and he's, and he looks at me like, hey, do I get sympathy? No. There's one person, for crying out loud. And so how we look at life tremendously impacts our emotional barometer. So my question is, what do you choose to look at? What will be your focus? The glass is half empty or easily half full? So I think of passages like Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 20, where Paul tells the Ephesians, always giving thanks for all things. Now that's New American Standard reading. A parallel one is in 1 Thessalonians 5:18. Give thanks in all circumstances, New International Version. So I try to think, what's a circumstance you wouldn't want to give thanks for? Well, here's a train bearing down on you. They're going to whack you. Yeah, but what if you got your family free? Then it's okay. It's how we're looking at things, rather than woe is me and the world and look how bad it is. Yeah, but look at God and Christ and what he's doing for us and how good it is. So I thought we'd take a look at a handful of things that'll help us maybe in this coming year to have that more positive, focused attitude of count your blessings. I'd like us to talk about counting our spiritual blessings. In Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 12, and a whole host of passages, but here it says, and their sins I will remember no more. One of the things that appealed to me so much as a worldly teen is, all of that gets forgotten and forgiven. That was huge to me because I knew the wrongs I had done. And I'm facing a God that says, I'll pay for it all. As individuals look at Christ, he sacrificed himself. And that was for me. Paul, did you deserve it? Do we deserve it? No. That's called grace. Giving us what we don't deserve, but desperately need. As I think about counting spiritual blessings, I think about the peace of mind. In John 16:33, Jesus said, I told you that in me you have peace. In the world you have tribulation. It's that inner peace. That, yeah, but don't you know what the neighbors are doing? Do you know what the government just did? Why, over there in the Ukraine, I'm not in control of all of that. I'm just barely in control of me. I can work with me. I can help others and encourage others. Because we're a Christian, you have that inner peace. I can't solve the world's problems. I can deal with mine and maybe help with yours. I appreciate the providence of God. Romans 8:28, we quote often, how all things work together for good. Not that they are inherently good themselves, but from a Christian standpoint, if we go through whatever it is, either we find out God had a really way better idea. See, I thought we ought to go left, and God said, no, you ought to go right, and here's the blessings I have for you. But other times, it's really hard. And it takes, 10 years later, so, had that not happened, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. Wow. It's a spiritual blessing we need to count. And not being fearful. In Proverbs 3:24 through 26, you'll have no fear of sudden disaster. Paul, aren't you scared to death of what might happen next? No. I'm not in control of it. I don't know that there is. In 1 John 4:18, he said, perfect love casts out fear. I think about it. I want to make reasonable preparation for it. But I just don't live trembling. It's just whatever's going to happen, We're going to be strong, resourceful, Christians, united. Man, what better deal can you have than that? Count your spiritual blessings. I appreciate strength. Isaiah 40 and verse 31. That those who hope in the Lord will gain new strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not get tired. They'll walk and never faint. That fires me up. All right. Philippians 4:13 that we all love, that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You don't have enough strength. Yes, I do. I have enough strength to do whatever God wants me to do. And what a great day this is of being together. You have the privilege of prayer in Hebrews 4:16. Draw near to the throne of grace with confidence. Everybody's seen the old Wizard of Oz, right? And here's Dorothy, and she got her dog Toto, and they end up in whatever that is, Ozland or whatever. And here's the wizard. And he's behind the curtain talking into a microphone. Toto's shaking and a Tin Man shaking and the lion shaking. Except the dog runs over, pulls back the curtain. Here's just a guy. And so they were afraid to ask this guy. Our attitude toward God is we're coming before the God of the universe to his throne that is described as a throne of grace. And we come confidently. Were you ever in court? As I think about it, maybe I've been in court one time for a minor traffic violation that I wanted to contest. I was really wrong, but there were circumstances why I ended up that way, and they fined me, but just cut it now. But I'm uneasy in front of the judge. But you think about if somebody you love is your judge and he wants the very best for you, and you got to go in front of him. He'll do what's fair, but be absolutely as kind as possible. That's what God is saying. I want you to come before me with confidence, not fearfully. And boy, there's the wisdom in life. Proverbs 14:33, wisdom lies in the heart of the one who has understanding. I think about that, and I talk with guys sometimes. It is amazing that we as teenage boys ever lived through our teenage years. Why did you do that? It seemed like a good idea at the time. It was a terrible idea, but God watched over us and this and that. But as you grow as a Christian, you learn, this is a way better choice than that. Those are spiritual blessings that we can count on. And finally, life has purpose. And that's what makes some people just hopeless and suicidal. That we have a direction in life. We've been granted grace, for by grace have you been saved. We don't deserve it, and God gives it to us anyhow. We get a resurrection and a new body. Old people, Jim Myers, who's 7 years older than I, he said, man, he's ready for a new body. That body is not working out very well. And Paul Ed Garibaldi and various others have reversals. Say, what if you had a spiritual, powerful body that goes forever? Man. And you have eternity with God. And with all your godly friends. Man, we're here forever. Forever. You go, yes. Let's count our spiritual blessings. But then there's other areas we can think about counting as we go through this holiday season and this next year. Church, God's people, is a big family. In 1 Timothy 3:15, Paul says to Timothy, I wrote these things that you men may know how to conduct themselves in the household or family of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and support of the truth. One of the things that's thrilling to me, you can go anywhere and there's going to be help by family. You may not have thought much about this. I can go anywhere in the nation, make a phone call, and say, I'm stranded, I need help. Tom Burrell, can you help me? That guy would do anything he could to help me. Why? Because you got your family. What would you do for your own family? You'd do anything, anything. What a blessing that is, rather than I'm isolated, alone, can count on nobody. Count your social blessings. God's word tells us how to treat your mate. In Ecclesiastes 9 and in verse 9, that, that aspect of husbands, enjoy life with the woman you love all the days of your fleeting life. Rather than it be a struggle and miserable day to day, have fun every day. Glenn and I tease a lot. Gentle. You always want the other person to make sure they think it's funny too. But we laugh a lot. In 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 1, it talks about wives, be submissive to your husbands. Husbands, be understanding of your wife and treat her as a vessel of honor. You put her up like a Stradivarius violin. Delicate, important, treasured. Titus 2 and verse 4, for the older women to train the younger women to love their husbands, love their children. Sometimes they said, I'm done with that. And so it just is. And God's saying there's a better way. Why? Did you know that as a non-Christian? No. God said, here's how you make that happen. Think about rejoicing with your kids and grandkids. In Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go. But you think about the discipline in Ephesians chapter 6, 1 through 4. And so you're training them, helping them step by step. But laugh with them. Respect them. Treasure your grandchildren. In Proverbs 17 and in verse 6, it said that grandchildren are a crown to the aged, and fathers are a glory to their children. And so you just have great stuff. Not only, just don't struggle through life, enjoy it, rejoice in it. Tell the members of your family how important they are to you. It's a blessing to be a family. And then you have world-class friends. And Proverbs 13 and verse 20, walk with the wise and you'll be wise. In 18:24, he said, there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. That my brother chose a different course, and we could hardly have been further apart. We just had the same last name. Because he was going a direction I wouldn't go. And in Proverbs 27:17, one that I enjoyed sharing with Ryan Laverne, that iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. We're better, stronger together than we would have been by ourselves. Count your many blessings. The inspirational example of others in Romans 16 and verse 4, Aquila and Priscilla, Paul said, risk their necks, risk their lives for my sake. And you'd do that. Philippians 1:13, for the Philippian church, Paul said, I thank my God in all my remembrance or recollection. Every time I think of you, I am so thankful for you. Bill and Ludi are going to go vacation in the Philippines in January 3rd, is that right? Pretty close. And just cherish them. And really, I want you to stay here all the time. But if you go safely. Have a great time. Come on back. Why? Because you're part of the family. Christians are real. I was watching a movie recently about some of the background story of the horse whisperer in the movie that Robert Redford played, like he knows horses and all this kind of thing. And then the real guy on the set that did that kind of thing. Robert Redford was talking about how this guy shows up in his office because somebody's going to introduce him. He's got a cowboy hat on, he's got a vest, he's got all Western wear, and he thinks, what is this guy dressed up like? He thinks he's on a set or something, and his friend comes in dressed the same way. He said, but right away, we start talking, and I find out, these people are real. They're not dressing up to impress you or amuse you. This is how they work. And he showed them, you don't have to beat a horse and tie it down and whip it. In 5 minutes, this guy is, and some other horse trainers and owners and such say, oh, this must be voodoo, he can't do this. In 5 minutes, this guy is walking around in the corral and the horse is following him like a puppy. He's not even holding on to him. You go, wow. And so Redford said, this guy is real because he was so abused as a kid. He learned horses are afraid. People are afraid of the horse. And so he learned, just treat them with honor, treat them with respect, and get them to follow you. So as I think about the application to Christian in 1 Corinthians 1:26, not many mighty, not many noble are called. Among Jesus' immediate followers, you didn't have a whole lot of generals and Greek philosophers. It was just the ordinary people. They're real, just like you. And I'm so thankful for that. You count your physical blessings, and I think of some of those areas of, we have a degree of good health. In the book of 3 John, and there's only one chapter, verse 1 and 2, John prayed that you may be in good health and prosper as your soul prospers. It's okay to prosper. It's okay to be in good health, and ask God for that very thing. There's beauty in nature. Heavens declare the glory of God. That we have some form of government. It may be not the most beneficial, but it's better than anarchy. And so Romans 13, 1 through 4 talks about that. Let every soul be in submission to the governing authorities. And yet in Ecclesiastes 1 and verse 15, he said, that which is crooked can't be straightened. That which is lacking can't be counted. It is not perfect. But it's better than absolute pandemonium. And so you always work to make things better to some degree. We have amazing bodies. Psalm 139:14. Count your many blessings. We have sight. We have hearing. The sense of touch. The joy of taste. The perception of scent. Perfumes or flowers or peanut butter or bacon or whatever it happens to be. Those are neat things. Why? Those are just part of the things that we can rejoice in life. I think about fairly often just being delighted in sunshine and blue sky. Yeah, it was cloudy out. Yeah, but I saw a little patch of blue. And that makes me happy. Ecclesiastes 11 and verse 7 said, it's good for the eyes to see the sun. I think about things to be thankful for, like international meals. In Ecclesiastes 2:24 and in chapter 5 and again in chapter 8, he said, there's nothing better than to eat and drink and tell yourself your labor is good. It's the gift of God. So enjoy it. And then I began thinking about, how far would you have to go to get some kind of international meal? Oh, a block, a mile. And here, it's 2 blocks over. You get Mexican. But if you want Greek or Vietnamese, if you want Italian, if you want Hawaiian, just in our little town, all these and lots more. A little place down the street had something, I forget what it was, Dave's Soul Food. And so it just, whew. And so everything is available. And let's enjoy those. If we think about, and that went dull a little bit too quick, but anyhow, Ecclesiastes 4:4, he said, I've seen that every skill and is a result of a rivalry. I thought of things that we have in the technological line. We have smartphones. Remember, you got to be quite old to do this. There used to be phones hanging on the wall, and you had party line. I talked on one of those one time. But ours was a black rotary like somebody had. Teenagers now don't even know how to work the thing. And now, think about what your phone does. I can talk on the phone, take pictures by my phone. It keeps my schedule. It tells me about appointments. You can watch stocks, do all these kind of things. Wow. But then, in the funny papers, there was Dick Tracy. He could talk to his watch. I can talk to my watch now. Jim Myers calls me. I say, hello, Jim, how's it going? I go, how's that work? I don't know how it works. But it's amazing. But think about all the other things that is available. We have smart TVs. You click it on, it'll do your TV stuff. It'll do news, thousands of programs for free. If you want music, you can play music on your TV. You punch a button and your heat will come on and go to a certain level, or air conditioning if you want. You have a robot in your house. You don't have to go down to the river and beat your clothes on the rocks anymore. Just throw them all in this one metal box, punch a button, and it washes them. Throw them in the next metal box. It dries them. Wow. If you want your floor swept, you got robots for that. Punch a little button, it goes a little low. It cleans your floor. You think in every area. There used to be a generation, if you wanted to buy something, you had to go to a store. You don't have to go to the store anymore. If you wanted to bank something, you don't have to go to a bank. You take a picture of the check and send it, goes to your account. Think about these advances. You go, wow. They are luxuries that Solomon not only never had, never dreamed of. There's a degree of wealth. Proverbs 10 and verse 22. It's the blessing of the Lord that makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. You have the pursuit of education in Proverbs 9 and verse 9. The wise will hear and increase in learning. Whatever you want to learn. You want to learn a foreign language. You want to learn to be an optometrist. You want to learn how to fix your brakes. Anything you need, it's virtually online if you have the desire to learn. And think about this. Every area of our life is filled with luxury. In my pocket, I have a fob. I can lock and unlock my doors like almost every one of you have. But some of you, like Ron Swift, has a fob. You remember in the olden days, you had to go out to your car in the winter, and trying to get the thing started and you're sitting in the cola. Well, now you punch a button, the seats warm up and heat you. Some have heated steering wheels. Ron can start his truck from inside the building and let it warm up for you. We are so blessed. Rather than focus on the negative, let's think about the blessings that we have. The intellectual blessings of just enjoying life. In 1 Timothy 6:17, God has given us richly all things to enjoy. If we have that positive attitude of focusing on that rather than the negative, we could have godly goals. It talked about Jesus, how he grew in wisdom and stature and favor in God with men. What are your goals for this coming years? What are your goals to increase your mind, make it sharper, learn and grow? What's your goals for physically? Exercise impacts, whatever works for you, impacts all kinds of your mental and emotional capacity. What are your spiritual goals, your relationship with God, social and blessing others that count your many blessings? And when you do that, one of the things is the capacity to be diligent. In Ecclesiastes 9:10, whatever you do, do with all your might. Rather than half-hearted and lukewarm, well, just getting through. Go through it with gusto. Give it the best you've got. And you end up being blessed for that. Adversity comes. Handle it. Ecclesiastes 7:14 said, in the day of prosperity be happy, and the day of adversity consider. God's made one as well as the other. We become stronger for, it's not necessarily happier to have the reversal. We become a stronger person as we handle it and overcome. Think about that quality of just being positive. In Proverbs 15:15, how all the days of the afflicted are bad, but the cheerful has a continual feast. Every day it's a good day. A quote I like from a friend of mine had passed away several years ago, Glenn C. He said, every day is a good day, and some days are even better. He said that even when he had stage 4 cancer. It's just, wow. So how can I handle the adversities and the down times of life? A positive attitude and being generous. Proverbs 11:24 and 25, there's one who scatters and yet increases all the more. Having that giving spirit to God and to others. One of the blessings is wise counsel. In Proverbs 11:14, in the abundance of counselors there's victory. That you can go to people that you trust and they'll give it to you square. That this is what's really going to help. Wow. And then the element of strength and contentment. In 1 Corinthians 16 and verse 13, be strong, act like men. And Hebrews 13 and verse 5, the tranquil heart. So that calmness, life is good. It's joyous to be with Christians. And so as you think about that and we wrap up, how do you count your blessings today? Well, just a couple last thoughts. In 1 Peter 4:11, Peter said, I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am. Psalm 100 and verse 4, enter his gates with thanksgiving, give thanks to him, and bless his name. 1 Peter 5 and verse 7, casting all your anxiety upon him, because he cares for you. He knows more, he's stronger, he can handle that. And then finally, Revelation 22 and verse 4, they shall see his face, and his name shall be on his forehead. We think about God more. It's not my problem. Yeah, but such and such is happening in the country. Maybe I can help it, but I didn't create it. I can't undo it. I can just help people that happen to go through it. Christians, what a joy it is to be together. Count your many blessings. If you're not a member of the body of Christ and you say, I'd like to make that start. I'd like to become that new person. I'd like to have the change in life. Maybe in my situation was, I didn't even know where to start. And somebody said, would you like to study about it? And if you'd like to do that and you want to express that, that would be great. If you said, no, I know that Jesus is Lord and I'm ready to make a change. And I not only believe in him, I'm willing to repent of my sins, confess his name, and be buried in the waters of baptism. And you rise and walk that new life. Think about that, and you'd have the opportunity to count your many blessings. You'd like to express that or ask for help or prayers, we can come forward. Mike, as we sing 118, count your many blessings.